Aloha, it is member-supported Hawaii Public Radio. All things considered, Dave Lawrence having a little birthday party here down at the Blue Note Hawaii. Roger Lewis, baritone and soprano sax. Happy birthday, my brother from the Dirty Dozen.
You don't get to be 75 but once. You only get 75 once in your life.
You gotta celebrate.
Yeah, you gotta celebrate because it only happened one time. You know, everything else is going somewhere else, right?
And then it happens again and again and again for thousands of years.
More years from now, you know, I'll be 100. I'm gonna check it out and see what's that all about. Because 75 feeling pretty good. 100 might feel even better, right?
You're looking so good, dude. You are looking so good.
I'm hanging in there. You know, I'm trying to make it do what it do. You know.
Happy birthday, healthiest birthday wishes to you.
Pretty healthy, yeah. The candle ain't out.
Say again?
The candle is not out. It's still burning.
It's burning hard. I was listening to it, and you know, what you're doing is you're representing a group that has been going on for a very long time. But if you can talk about the evolution of the brass band music in modern day New Orleans, and if you can, this group has roots that go all the way back to the New Orleans Fairview Baptist Church, the late great Danny Barker. If you can plug us in on that history that came before you.
Some of the members in the band, like Gregory Davis and I think Ephraim Towns and Kevin Harris, those guys, they played at Fairview Baptist Church, and it evolved into what we're doing now, which is Dirty Dozen Brass Band. We started this band back in 1976. This particular chapter of the band, and the idea was to play whatever kind of music we wanted to play. That some bands you play in, like I played in Fast Domino band, and all you do is play Fast Domino music because it's Fast Domino. But in Dirty Dozen, you have an opportunity to bring an original composition to the table, or play whatever kind of music you want to play. If you want to play some bebop, or you want to play some rock and roll, rhythm and blues, avant-garde, whatever. So what happened? We started bringing this type of music. We started bringing this music to the streets. Just experimenting with all of this stuff, not thinking that we was changing the tradition of New Orleans music. Of course, we was playing the traditional music, which is a lot of hymns and march music like South Rampart Street Parade, Bugle Boy March, and those just a few of them. But we mixed in the music of Thelonious Monk, Duke Ellington, Charlie Parker, Jimmy Forrest, Night Train. Most music that you would probably hear in ballrooms and joints, we call them joints, in New Orleans. But we brought this music to the streets with a beat, with the I guess you want to call it a second line beat. And people loved it. I mean, they went because they had never heard nothing like that before, right? Because that kind of music wasn't being played in the streets. Well, now some of the older guys, the older traditional guys will say, "Oh, you guys not really playing traditional music," but the people loved it. Then we picked up the beat slightly a little bit, so then people start dancing what we call bug jumping to a very fast pace. Now you bear in mind, if Dirty Dozen is playing a second line, you got to bring your tennis shoes and your jogging outfit. And if you have a weight problem, guarantee after 4 hours that weight problem will not be happening as much as it was before you started. I mean, really, it's the truth, though, So what happened was some of the band, one of the younger bands that was listening to Dirty Dozen was the Rebirth Brass Band. Matter of fact, those guys won a Grammy, I think, a few years ago. And they embraced the music, and it was like, those little kids, man. They was following us around. Matter of fact, they play all our music. Then I must talk about Corey Joseph, because Corey Joseph probably revolutionized sousaphone or tuba playing, because tuba players weren't making money playing a tuba till Craig came along, and all these brass bands started popping up all over the world, not necessarily in New Orleans, but all over the world, man. And they all imitated what we were doing, and it's all we're working on 40 years right now. So we've been going strong. We do about that. Probably in the earlier days, we was probably doing about 300 gigs a year. And now we do about 200 and some gigs a year. And we had the pleasure of playing with people like Elvis Costello, who heard the band when we were in New York. He just happened to be passing by, and he came in and he heard the band, and his mother heard the band, and he invited us to work on his album. One of them was Mighty Like a Rose, I think, and Spike, you know. And then later on, Widespread Panic, The Black Crows, Boozerly, Buckwheat Zydeco, who we just lost a couple of weeks ago. And the list go on and on. Alan Toussaint, man, I can, Midas Mouse. And then we had a lot of guest artists like Dizzy Gillespie, Bradford Marcellus on our Voodoo record. So, everybody been embracing what we do, what we do. Everybody seem to like it, and it's very high energy. And it's, we got music for your mind, your body, and your soul. We try to cover everything.
That record, the Voodoo record, gathering those cats together is something I wanted to hear about. But dialing back into your own life first, and this life of music, a lot of cats in New Orleans, and anywhere really where someone picks up music at a young age, perhaps there were parents, there were friends of the parents. When you think of yourself as a really young guy, a little boy being exposed to music, can you give credit to the people who really indoctrinated you into what has been a life of music?
Well, for me, it was my mother, because when I was 8 years old, she sent me to take piano lessons, like 50 cents a lesson for an hour. I used to walk about 3 or 4 miles, man. And she wanted me to play in the church. Most musicians in New Orleans come out to church. So she wanted me to play in the church, And I took lessons for a while and, classical piano, and then my dad bought me a saxophone when I was 10 years old. And I took it loose. I took the saxophone loose. I took it loose. I wanted to see how it really worked. And when he came home from work, he said, "You better put it back together." So I tried to put it back together. I had a couple of pieces left over. And I managed to put the doggone thing back together. Anyway, when I got the saxophone, I forgot about the piano. Which just, that was not a good thing to do. But I didn't know no better, because I got the piano. Then when I was turning, I think I was 11 years old when I started playing in these little ballrooms around New Orleans, as a kid, sliding across the sawdust floor. We used to put sawdust on a wooden floor so you could slide. We call it entertaining people, walking the ball, kicking over drinks, and doing all kind of stuff. Showman, show business, that kind of thing. And then later on, I learned a couple of more notes and, met a couple of more cats, and he started turning me on to this, dust, and so, and started educating myself more about what I was doing. When I really joined Fast Domino, that's when I really got an education, because those guys in that band were some of the finest musicians in the city, man. People like Lee Allen, Freddie Kemp, the great Herbert Hardesty, Dave Bartholomew, and the list go on and on and on, man.
What is a lesson that you got from Fats Domino that you carry to this day? Here we are, we're on your 75th birthday, which we're spending together. God bless you for spending some time with us. But when you think of Fats, legendary cat, maybe you learned a few different kinds of things, but when you ponder it at this moment, what comes to mind?
Well, it was mind-blowing, because you're playing with the cat that invented this music, him and Dave Bartholomew, man. And like, just to watch Fast walk across the stage, how he present himself, he's so professional, how he presented his program, just to watch the man just walk across the stage, man, and his stage presence, man. I learned a lot about that, how you present yourself as a professional, and how you dress and how you look, and how you carry yourself. That's one of the things. And not only, Fast Domino was the first guy that I started doing traveling internationally, because before that I was doing like what we call the chilling circuit. So when I got in Fast Band, we started, traveling internationally, man, going, all these different places, Europe and all these, Finland and places like that, man. That was like mind blowing, because when I was a kid, everybody had encyclopedias in their house, right? And I used to be looking in the page, and I see the pictures of Big Ben and all these places in Europe and all over the world, And we were it was in London. I'll never forget, I was looking out the window and I was looking at Big Ben. It was like I was in the picture. It was the same doggone picture I seen in the book. I said, man, so, it was just mind blowing, man. He's so professional, such a nice cat. I mean, just approachable. Like some of those people that be up there, they're not approachable. Liberace was a guy that was very approachable too. Very, very nice man. I never forget. I was passing Fats dressing room. We used to play the Flamingo in Las Vegas, and the band dressing room was in the back of the building, so you had to pass Fats dressing room, and I seen all this glitter coming out the room, you know. So I looked in there, and that was Liberace, man. I mean, this cat was immaculate, you know. And he said, "Oh, hey, come in." Walk in. He said, "Oh, that solo you played was so beautiful. Sit down." And we sit down and we was having a conversation like you and I having a conversation. A very, very, very nice. I mean, man, very nice. All these nice people like Red Fox, meeting all of these people that surround himself around Fats because they all came to Fats show.
Red Fox was hanging with Fats.
Well, Slappy White used to open up for Red Fox. Okay. Then Red Fox would open up for Fats Domino. Red Fox would come out on the stage with a titty mug. Boy, that was a kicks, man. Yes. I mean, being around all them people like Garfield Chamberlain and all these cats, man, you know, it was like mind-blowing, you know, because now you on the top level shelf of where entertainment is. I think the newest hotel on the Strip was building Caesar's Palace. Then they built a Hilton for Elvis. You know, you had the Silver Slipper and the Sands and all those places, you know. We used to do like 5 weeks in Vegas, 2 weeks in Reno, 2 weeks in Tahoe, about 3-4 times a year. So that was the thing, man. It was like, for me, it was like mind blowing. You know, it's the experience. It's never been one like that.
That's a great story with Liberace. I mean, I've never had anyone tell a story about meeting him, and it brings him very human kind of qualities.
He was just a regular guy, man. You know, he wasn't like, you know, you would think, oh man, this is Liberace. You know, you can't even talk to this guy. You know,
he was down to earth.
He's down to earth, man. I mean, it was like you and I sitting here having this, you know, this interview. I mean, this guy, man, he was a beautiful human being, man. I mean, his presence was
his demeanor.
Yeah, you know, it was like, wow, you know.
Well, that says a lot, and you're embodying it on your 75th birthday because you're a very, very down-to-earth cat yourself. And you mentioned the Voodoo record because I don't want to take up too much time. We're in between sets, so he's still got another whole concert to do. You mentioned these at Dizzy, at Branford, Dr. John, I believe, was on that as well. Talk about like getting guys like that together and maybe a Dizzy member.
Well, Dizzy Gillespie, you know, like when we started really traveling in 1983, I think it was 83. We started traveling. First, we did our first record on Concord Jazz label. It was the George Wein Collection. Okay. Then George, Charlie Graciano, that was our booking agent. They brought us all over the world on all these jazz concerts with all these famous people like Dizzy Gillespie, you know. Oh, man, the list go on. The Texas Tenors, Cab Calloway, you know, Basie, I mean, all these people, man. You know, we was on the same concert with Buddy Rich. We did a concert somewhere in, I think it was Germany. We had to do 6 encores. I couldn't believe that, man. The band was hanging out in the wings, and the people were screaming and howling. We couldn't do 6 encores, man. I mean, you know, we was fresh and young and, you know, hungry. We're still hungry, but, you know, I'm just saying. I mean, we talking about, oh, man, it's like, you know, I can't even find the words to describe the feeling. You know, like going all these places where people say people don't dance, they don't get up, they just sit in their chairs. We did a United States Information Service tour. Started out in New Guinea, Papua New Guinea, went to Jakarta, Taipei, Singapore, Thailand, the Philippines. And like one of the places we played, you know, the lady said, look, I just want to tell you, you know, don't think they don't like your music, but if they don't get up and dance, you know, they usually just sit and just absorb the music, you know. By the second number, saw feet moving. By the third number, man, that people was jumping up like they were swinging from the trees. It's something, you know, New Orleans music is so spiritual. It's so spiritual, man. It has so much feeling. It's syncopated. So it's got something for everything. New Orleans, you got everything in New Orleans music because you got all these different cultures, you know, like the Spanish and the French. You see, it's like a big pot of gumbo. You familiar with our dish gumbo? You got the French influence, you got the Spanish, you got Italians, you got all these cultures, man. It's a melting pot of cultures, and all that stuff is in the music. So it's like a big musical gumbo, you know. And whatever your thing is in the music. So it's like, you ever been to a Baptist church?
I have.
Okay, the Baptist church. Okay, say you and I, we sitting down, and the old preacher up there, he preaching, right? And you and I sitting down, you know, checking it out, and the preacher says something, you say, ooh. And I look at you. You felt that. You said, you know, he touched you. He touched you. Then he come around again and he say something to me, and I say, yeah, right? Right. So he touched me, but that wasn't for you. What was for you was for you. So what I'm saying is, we got something in the music that will touch everybody. You know, sometimes we get them all at one time. You know, sometimes they have like tonight. All of them at one time, you know. So it's something about the music is so spiritual and so powerful, man, that you can't help but to react.
Is that sort of getting back to why you had all those cats on that record? Was it to bring all the flavors they had to sort of augment your sound?
Well, you know, I kind of got away from what it was by Diz. What Diz had been, he had checked the band out, man. He said the band reminded him when he was a youngster, because he was playing brass bands too, you know. And because matter of fact, he didn't want to do Oop Papa Dop. So I don't want to do that. I want to play some of the stuff that y'all playing, you know. But Dizzy Gillespie was crazy about the band in Branford. He's from New Orleans, you know, so it was only proper to get him involved. Yeah, you know.
That's one of the things you guys have been blessed to have. And you mentioned all these rock acts. I think the very first time that I saw you, either I was at New Orleans Jazz Fest '94, and I might have seen you either at the House of Blues, if you played there in '94 on that one. But I definitely think when the Crows took you out in '95, the America or Bus tour. When you think about these rock connections, are there any memories that come to mind that because that's another audience that you're a great crossover for, especially as you say, you get people moving. It's a very interactive sound. It's a kind of sound where it's hard for someone to sit still, even if they're from a culture where they sit still, like you pointed out wisely. They're up within a couple of songs. Anything about that rock connection that comes to mind?
I'm gonna tell you something about the Black Crows, man. Them cats was in their dressing room. They was the opposite of what they played. Because you would walk into their dressing room and you'd be hearing Miles Davis, John Coltrane, you know, bebop. You know, on stage it was like, you know, Chris Roberts, man. Walk into the dressing room, you might hear some Ella Fitzgerald or Sarah Vaughan. It was complete opposite, man, you know. And they was very serious cats about, you know, they was pretty serious cats. They was some nice cats, man.
It was burning a whole lot of herb back on that tour too. I remember the Orpheum and Boston.
Burning a lot of stuff. That one cat was burning too much stuff. I had to talk to him and get his. I helped him get his life together.
Did you?
Yeah, really, seriously, a real story. I said, man, come here, let me tell you something, man. You know, like you're going down a one-way street. You know, it's a one-way street, and you know, I said, I'm gonna tell you something. You ain't gonna get no higher than waking up. Everything is downhill. You know, like Cat might say, come on, man, let's go get down. Exactly what it means. Go get down. And if you don't watch it, they're going to dig a hole and you're going to really be down, under. And he thought about that, you know, and changed his life. He stopped doing all the crazy stuff he was doing. You know, sometimes you can tell people a whole lot of stuff and only one thing might register in their brain, you know.
And that could be the key thing, though, that does it. I mean, it's so you may not have needed the other parts.
Man, Frog Joe was a Waldron Joe was a very famous trombone player in New Orleans. Matter of fact, that's Curry Joseph, our sousaphone player, father. He told me one day, he said, see, son, I was messed up. He said, son, why pay to make yourself sick? And that was like somebody punched me in the chest, you know. Why appear to make yourself sick? And I thought about it. I said, wait a minute, I'm sick. I drank this stuff, I'm sick, I'm throwing up and whatnot, you understand? I ain't got no money, and guess what? I paid for this. Right. I paid to feel
I paid to make myself like
sick. Yeah, to make myself sick, you know. So I always tell cats, you know, when they are young guys, I talk to them, I try to help them out, you know. You know, because sometimes it's just one little thing you can tell somebody to change their life, man.
It would be a kernel of knowledge that'll stick with them forever. I completely understand, and I've been blessed to have people point me in the right direction too when I need it. Final question, and then I'll let you get on with your night. You mentioned Katrina on stage, or it was mentioned briefly, talking about you in. When you think about this, your beloved city, the Crescent City, and that experience and how it has changed or not changed, either for the better or worse, or in any way since then, are there any observations you can share with us?
Well, you know, as far as Katrina is concerned, I mean, another man's misery is another man's gain. You see what I'm saying? I mean, a lot of people profit from that. You know, a lot of stuff that was going on, you know, after the storm, man, that wasn't cool. Like contractors ripping people off. I mean, in New Orleans, we got a lot of green space. I mean, like we go down to the lower ninth ward, you know, there's a lot of green space down there, which was the most devastating area that was, you know, was hit in the lower ninth ward, you know. Uh, the city, you know, it's coming back. I mean, you know, hey, we still got music. We do a lot of music, but when the storm hit, we was on. Most of us was on the road, with the exception of Gregory. Gregory was still in New Orleans. You know, he had left the band. He left the band in 1998 and started working for the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. So he wasn't with us, but we was on the road. I forgot exactly where we were. But the funny thing about that, uh, we had a storm right before Hurricane Katrina. I can't remember which one it was, and people evacuated, but the storm made a turn towards Florida. It took it took me, my wife, and my kid 11 hours to go 60 miles to Baton Rouge. When the storm turned around, we came back home in about maybe 30, 40 minutes. So my wife and I was sitting on the sofa, and she said, you know, we have to figure a faster way to get out of New Orleans, she said, because when the big one come, the whole city gonna be on the water. I said, hold up. I said, New Orleans, the whole city of New Orleans is not gonna flood. I said, wait a minute, you from Tokyo, you don't know what you talk. My wife's Japanese, right? And man, I was on the tour bus and I'm looking at CNN. I'm looking at a lake where I know they got houses. You know, it was like, I said, look, if any more storms come, don't you say nothing. You just be quiet. It was like, I'm trying to, I said, how you know the whole city was going to flood? I told you when the big one come, and it was coming, the whole city was going to be on the water. So that's one thing that stuck in my mind, you know, other than all the devastation that was happening and how the, the reaction for as federal government looked like it should have been much faster. Then the respond looked like nobody knew what to do. You know, it was like, man, you know, he had people on houses, man, for like 2 or 3. My cousin was on a house for 3 days on a roof.
I can't even believe that Superdome's back to business like nothing ever happened.
Hey, well, you know,
like business cranks on.
Yeah, business as usual. I mean, the French Quarter didn't flood. That's the high part of the city, man. Let me see. When we had a storm called Hurricane Betsy. I think it was 68 or something, where they blew the levees down in the lower Niagara. This is just real. They blew to keep that water from going up the river to maybe threaten the French Quarter, right? French Quarter it's not gonna flood. You know, they blew the levees to keep that water from going down the Mississippi River. That's the history of the city. That's too much history, man. You know, that's not gonna flood. But that's, you know, that Hurricane Bessie just flooded out maybe the lower ninth ward, and the water didn't stay that long. Might have stayed about a week or so, you know. But this time, all the levees, all the canals, all that stuff failed, you know, and 85% of the city was on the water, man. Some places 30, 40 feet of water. That's a lot of water. I lived down in, my mother lived down in the lower ninth ward, and they had at least 15 feet of water down there. And in my house, I think we had about 5 feet of water, you know. And that's a funny thing now. Where Ephraim lived at, he didn't have no water. He lived about 6 or 7 blocks from me. See, yeah, you New Orleans is made like a bowl, you know.
Just a little bit of difference could make a big difference in your survival.
Yeah, I had another friend of mine, his wife, she said the water stopped right at the block. where she was at. She had no water. Car didn't get flooded or nothing. That's right.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's amazing,
Stroke the luck of the draw too, like we said about where you are, particularly can make a thing, and hopefully your wife won't be making any more predictions.
I hope so. I hope not. And yeah, she don't need to be doing that. I said, look,
Once was enough, honey.
once was enough. I mean, it tripped me out, But everybody experience after the flood was different. Some people relocated to different places, My wife was on her way to Alexandria, and she missed her turn, and she wound up in Vicksburg, Mississippi, which was a blessing. I didn't know they had that kind of love in Vicksburg, Mississippi. I mean, gee whiz, And we stayed on an estate, a guy by the name of Patrick Smith. We stayed on his estate. Matter of fact, we used to rent our tour buses from him. I didn't know we was that. I didn't know we had that kind of friendship. You never know who your real friends are, man.
Till you need them.
Till you really need them. Here they come. And, man, it was a beautiful experience, man. I mean, my daughter got a chance to ride on horses. And matter of fact, we put in a Catholic school, a private school. And the principal was from New Orleans. She said, well, I used to come see you guys at the Maple Leaf, So I go in there, I want to pay, pay the, she looking all out the window. I said, well, look, I want to, so I donated the money to the, to the school, to the church, because she didn't want no money, So my experience after, evacuating to Vicksburg, Mississippi, man, was a beautiful, beautiful experience, I mean, you never know. You think, you have this thing about you think there's no good people in the world, like Mississippi, Louisiana. You think about all that crazy stuff that went down back in 1800. You'd be thinking, oh, I don't know about, and man, they got good people. I mean,
it's redeeming.
Yeah, right. I mean, my experience was a wonderful experience.
Well, those are the best kind, to have something in a dark situation show some light, as my mom would say.
House.
Right, with 5 feet will do it.
In that house, and everything was turned upside down. My wife had this piano that was our great-grandmother's piano. She imported it from Japan. Beautiful piano, real ivory keys. We left 2 bags of dog food in a music room. Man, gee whiz, you talking about a mess. The floor was bubbling. Oh my God. Oh, I mean, it was, you talking about
putting the best spin on it that we possibly can. We're celebrating the birthday of a true legend. It's Roger Lewis and the Dirty Dozen Brass Band with us on All Things Considered, member supported Hawaii Public Radio. God bless you, and many more birthdays, and thank you so much for the stories.
Check out 75. I mean, I'm gonna check on maybe 75 more years. You never know. Technology being what it is, you never know what it might. You might put you in a little tube, and you might just come back, whatever. But I'm gonna try to check out 25 more years.
I'm rooting for you, man. Thank you for your time. I hope this kept you somewhat entertained.
Man, that baritone. All right, I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you, Roger.